Right, here we go then, let's dive straight into another one. And it's to celebrate the release of Avatar 3, Avatar Fire and Ash. Let's hide our camera and light. Let's fire up our epic pen, in case we need it. Let's hit N to bring up our menu there. Let's put wireframe on. I have to download an update of that. Yeah, our wireframe on. Item. So let's dive straight into this avatar. So let's look at this reference on the other monitor. Just adjust my mic. So let's dive straight in then. So let's move that up to there. Control A, all transforms. We have to move that across to mirror it. Let's make sure we're in the x-axis across there. Let's just crack straight on with this leg thing. And it's a Lego avatar, by the way, this is. And they're a little bit bigger than the normal looking Lego characters. I think there's 3 holes on the back instead of 2. Let's just look at my character. I got Lego reference. Got a little Lego character in front of me as well. So it seems to be a roundness there. Let's loop cut there. Grab our face. There, let's extrude that out. Somewhere like that. Let's go into edge mode, smooth that down a touch. I think what we'll do, we'll go to add mesh cylinder. Let's try 16. Let's go minus 90 there. Scale that. So I'm just looking at the reference here. It's like a roundness on the leg there. Ideally we want these two to be one mesh. I think what we'll do, let's rotate that a bit because the roundness at the back kind of continues up and then goes in. Now bear with me, I'm just doing all these on the fly. I'm thinking maybe you can join them and weld them. What we could do. Let's grab that, go into see-through, go into edit mode, select the vertex, go across them, out to see-through. Let's just nudge that so it's level with that edge loop there. Now I think what we'll do next, we'll add an edge loop there. And there's all different ways you could go across this. You could add a load of edge loops and then shape it out. I'm just thinking because it's a cylindrical shape at the top, I'm thinking this way might be best really. Let's see. Would we add another loop there maybe? Or do we add a knife? Let's go into see-through and move this down to there. I think we'll delete that face there. And we'll delete that face because we don't need the inner one. Just trying to think. Try to join it. And we could do with that really. What about if we grab this and then go into edit mode, knife, and there to there, hit enter, there to there, knife, hit enter, / to solo it, we're in face mode, let's delete these faces here. grab these faces. We could delete them. /. Then what we could do now is grab this in edit mode, vertex, select them two, go to at last, if I remember, at last. We've welded them two vertices. Then what we'll do now is we'll grab these two and go to Control J, so we combine them. We'll go into edit mode, M at centre, M at centre. Then in see-through mode, we'll grab these, we'll move them down a bit, not that much. Make sure you're in see-through, so you grab it both sides. So we've moved that down and in a touch. Now what we can do now is grab that M at centre, M at centre. We've welded everything. If you grab that vertex, you can just test that. And that's all welded together now. It's a see-through mode, File, Save As. We're creating Jake Sully, by the way. Jake Sully Lego. So that could, that's not too bad. I think what we'll do, we'll probably add a subdivision to this. So to do that, you want to have a few more edge strips. You're not bothered about poly count, not going into a game engine or anything. So add a couple of extra edge loops to maintain the boxiness of it. Could add one there as well. Let's just check. Should be, but I just want to make sure that these are, everything's welded properly. You can just check the edges. Yeah, everything's welded nice. Right click and shade smooth. I'll tell you what we'll do before we shade smooth, just looking at the reference. There's a little indent on the back. So if we'll go to add mesh cylinder, we'll rotate that 90, scale it in. Really, we should have duplicated that one, but it doesn't matter, it's still cylindrical there. So there's like a, it's like in there so the legs can bend. And it's pretty much the same as the other one, just slightly smaller, I think, looking at the reference. And tweak that in the polish. Maybe scale it down a touch, bring it up. So there's like an indent there for where the legs bend. What we need to do is we'll hide that. I think we'll go into edit mode and we'll add another loop there and a loop there. Let's just unhide that. We need a loop there really, don't we? Loop. Then because we haven't got a polygon, so we use a knife. We have to add a loop in like that. I'll tell you what we could do. We could, instead of adding the loop there, you can delete and dissolve edges. And then maybe select these edges here. bring them up a bit. Let's just unhide that cylinder. So yeah, it's somewhere around there where it cuts in. So do we need maybe another loop cut? Let's go into see-through first. We need to nudge these vertices in like that. So they go in. Maybe we should have selected that one as well. And these go inwards, and that kind of houses that cylinder there. It goes a little indent there. Something like that. It's not quite sitting right, is it? So we need to add another one in there. And then move that. Another loop. Did we get the right one? Indent in there. Another one in there. I'll get the right one in a minute. Just come out to see-through, then we'll get the right one then. Back into see-through. Nudge that in. We're not going to see this part that much, but let's try and get this bit right. That's the main part you'll see. Let's hide that. Let's maybe get the knife and just join them up there. Then we'll try and move them into create this nib. There's not really much of a slant, so you might have to grab all them, move that down. That's got to move in there, just looking at the reference, that's got to move in. Grab these verts here, move these down, grab that one, move it, and it's something like that. And that enables the legs to twist. So we'll do a bit of polish on that, but it's somewhat along the lines of that. We'll tweak that a little bit in a bit. But that's the basis of it. It's a sort of an indent there like that. Kind of a, I don't know, an inverse nib or something. It's something along the lines of that. Probably better ways to do it. And ideally you want cuts along here. But as I say, it's not going into a game engine, so we haven't got to worry about, you know, a lot of the time you don't really want triangles like that. You want to stick with like quads, four-sided. As I say, we're not going into a game engine, I think here. Just notice that, which is what happens in 3D a lot. You'll notice stuff as you go, so tweak that inwards. So the time goes that fast, doesn't it? Control S to save. We're on 14 minutes already. Unbelievable. Yeah, you can't control time, I'm afraid. Right, so here was we. We've got our leg. I think what we'll do, we'll add a bit more supporting edges. You grab your loop cut. You want some more supporting edges. We're going to add probably a bevel modifier. Maybe a subdivision. But you'll need some more, bit more geo, really. for when you're adding that. And the supporting edges. That may work. We'll go to, I'll tell you what, go to the modifier, generate a bevel amount, maybe 0.5, 5 segments, right click and shade smooth. It's not too bad, just a bit, yeah. We'll go with it for now. And then we'll probably add a subdivision modifier in a bit. But we're okay for now. So let's just go with that. Delete on the numpad to zoom in. Not too bad. There's quite a few edges. But you can dial that down here. Or dial it up, whatever you need. See how it looks in a render. But that's pretty much a leg, isn't it? I'm just trying to look at the reference now, see what else we need. Cylinder in there, right click and shade smooth on this cylinder. Actually, before we do that on the cylinder there, we'll go into edit mode, add a few more supporting edges on that. Right click and shade smooth, generate bevel again. And tweak that. That can be the bit where it bends in there. We want to mirror this. So there's the centre. Tell you what, we'll move these two here. Just trying to look at the gap between legs. It's not very much at all, is it? Something like that. So Control A, all transforms. Generate a mirror modifier with that as the centre. We're not on the, we haven't done it on the x-axis there. So let's do it correctly. Let's we're not across the x-axis, are we? Look. And we should be. So what we'll do, we'll rotate that -90 and that -90. Just move that back into place. Yeah, because I'm doing a lot of these on the fly. What you want to do at the start is you want to be across your x-axis there. So X. Doesn't matter, you can do it in the Z. But to be bang on, you want to be in X. So what we've done, we've just moved that leg there. You know, Control A, all transforms. And then now when you add the mirror modifier, it's working bang on as it should. So I think that gap was a bit too much. Let's move that in more. Control A, all transforms. Select that, generate mirror. That's better now. That looks like more of a gap that you'll get. So that's the basic legs, but it isn't because there's more we've missed. We need to add a Boolean. So object, so add mesh cylinder. Let's rotate that 90. Right click and shade smooth. Edit mode. For some reason I like to have some supporting edges on the edge. It's the fetish of mine, I think. What we're trying to do now is do a Boolean to mimic the back of the Lego legs. Shift D, move that down. Shift D, move that to the middle. Just trying to eyeball the gap. Something like that. It's got to be into the leg there. We'll do a Boolean on that. Just leave that as it is there. We may not have enough geometry for it to look perfect. But what you want to do is Control J to join them. We'll name that Bool, the Boolean. We haven't got loads of geo, have we there? Knock the mirror off. It was that side, wasn't it? I thought it was. That side there. So you need more geo really than that for a Boolean. So let's Control S to save. Out of interest, let's go to Generate Subdivision Surface. If you knock off Optimal Display, you'll see you got more geo. So Subdivision Surface not too bad. Let's turn it off though for now. Let's just see what this Boolean gives us, how much shading and that we get. So we want to go to, actually we want the mirror object here, don't we, for that. So we want to add Modifier Generate Boolean. And you want the ball there. And if you turn that off, you'll see you've got your holes. Like a Lego character, so. If we go into edit mode, you may have to apply that Boolean in edit mode. We haven't got a lot of supporting edges there. If we had a subdivision, it's going to probably pretty much destroy. See what I mean? Generate subdivision. So it's destroyed because we haven't got enough edges here. And we'd have to apply that Boolean to work on it. So what we'll do, just for now, we'll knock the subdivision off. We'll do a bit of tweaking on that in a bit, and I'll tell you what I've done. That's the leg. We need to crack on a bit here. That's the simple leg. Without the Boolean. We need a bit more supporting geometry if we're going to add a subdivision. But let's crack on with the rest of it now. It looks like add mesh cube. It seems to be. Let's actually turn the mirror back on as well. We could model half of this cube thing here. Let's look at the structure. Looking at the reference. Bring that down somewhere around there it is. It's pretty much flush. Probably pretty much flush with that in the back. And yeah, that's correct. There's a little looking at the reference. You got a couple of indents there. That's correct. have a look from the front. And these legs cut into that there. So let's add a few loop cuts here. Just to support the edges. And we'll go to Generate Bevel, right click and shade smooth. So 4 segments. That's that section. But then this leg cuts into that. Oh, just looking at the reference, it cuts into it a bit. Let's go into edit mode. A few more loops. I think what we'll do, just trying to think, that cuts into that, so we need to Boolean it really, don't we, as well. Ideally, need another Boolean on that. So let's Shift D, duplicate that, call that ball 2. The cube was the legs. So you should always name stuff. Hide them legs for a minute. You got ball 2. Let's go to add modifier, generate a Boolean. And we want ball 2. And if we hide ball 2, we'll see that he's cut into it, hasn't he? But I think we need to just scale it a bit. Then hide it. That's cut into it. Probably not going to see that. Yeah. That's cut in, hasn't it, there? Edit mode. Get a loop cut there, so you got a bit more geo. Maybe knock the bevel up one. Not going to see this. Just needs moving up a bit more to cut into that. So let's put the legs back. So that's got the bit cutting that we needed. I have to look into the shading, like at the back of that. So that's that part. Looking at the reference, there seems to be Shift D, another cube on this avatar one, which is smaller, but we don't want the Boolean on it. So we've duplicated that, but we've added this, added a bevel modifier. It's the basic structure of the legs. Let's go to Add Mesh Cube and start creating the body. Scale. Just looking at the body. The Lego character, maybe overlap that a touch. Scale that out. See-through mode, edge, sorry, vertex. We'll just overlap it, touch, it clips in, doesn't it? So enable X there, move that. Body something like that. And then this comes in a bit. Look at the side view. Only really comes in a little bit, not much at all. That's the basic body. I should check the proportions of that. So the long legs, his avatar Lego ones have got. Bring that up. Out to see-through mode. Edge mode. Let's add some edges in there. Just adding some edges. And obviously this needs to come up to there. Nudge that out a bit. Nudge that out to see-through mode. So that bottom, yeah, plugs into there. We've added a few edges. Let's go to generate a bevel modifier. Right click and shade smooth. Bring that down to there, that's to about 5. That's our simple body. We'll do a bit of tweaking on it. It does look a bit, the legs are quite long. This, I think, seems a bit too big. Let's bring that down. Let's scale that a touch. So we're just checking the proportions now. Bring that down. And this, just scale it a little bit. Bring it down. Maybe scale it out a touch. Out to see through. Maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe something like that. And those legs, maybe they're alright for now. We'll do a bit of tweaking probably on that. That's the body. Adjust this reference. Let's get a head in there. So, add mesh cylinder. It's a bit of a cylinder, isn't it really, the head? It's a little bit different. It's actually add mesh cylinder. Radius 2. Let's try 42. Let's see if that gives us a bit more geo. So these avatar ones are a little bit different to the normal Lego avatar heads. So I'm just thinking, best way to go about it. I'm just going to be painting the textures on in this. Edit mode. Get some more geo in there. Face mode. Select this face. Let's inset some faces here. Let's rotate that 180. Edit mode. Face again. Inset, inset, inset. Inset. Right click and shade smooth. Definitely a cylindrical type head. Then you can see a bit of a jawline. So we could go into Control A, all transforms to deltas, and go into sculpt mode. Enable X. Let's just try and tap smooth. Let's set the smooth to 0.4. Let's just tap smooth on this and try and get, seems to have a bit of a jawline. These Lego ones do. Sort of comes up here like that. Tap smooth. In the back seems to come up. F to resize. Shift to tap smooth. I've got a bit of a jawline. I'm looking at this reference from the side. Then at the front, you can also see a bit of a jawline. And this seems to go in a little bit. Let's tap smooth all around there. Tapping smooth. Something along the lines of that. Control S to save. So we got a stray cylinder there. Actually, let's undo that and we'll keep that cylinder for the neck. Right click and shade smooth. Edit mode. A bit of geometry in there. Scale this there. I'll bring it to the middle. Check the proportions, so it's quite thickish. The neck. Maybe something like that. You can see a little lip really on there. We'll have to mimic that. Needs to go up to about there, maybe the neck. And that slots in there. Something along the lines of that. Let's just check the proportions a bit. Body, maybe a little bit smaller. Head, not too bad. We've got to get the hair in there as well. We've obviously got to get the arms in there. So that can be the basic head. But it isn't. Because I've also noticed, just checking the reference, he's got ears as well. So Control S to save. We got, have to go into edit mode, got X enabled, and then somewhere around maybe back, seems to be quite back, quite far, somewhere around there. We need the other side as well. Now what we can do, we'll extrude that out and add some loop cuts. We'll go into sculpt mode. Tap smooth. Tapping smooth around these ears. Again, tap smooth. I'm just trying to mimic the reference really on this. Let's look at it from the back. That's the basics of it. We go into edit mode now. See through. Select. There's different ways of doing this. Just feel like I'm rushing a bit. Which is annoying, man. I need to calm down a bit there. Shift D. Go into object mode. See there was we undo. Let's move that out to there. Go to, leave it there, go to P. Selection. Ears. Before we go into object mode on the ears. Sorry. Wrong one. Head. That's the ears. Generate a mirror modifier. Now we've mirrored it to the other side. We'll apply that mirror modifier. Go into edit mode. See through. Delete that side because we don't need it. Hide them ears for a minute. Then we need these faces deleted. Unhide the ears. Control J. Edit mode. Vertex. See through. Make sure you only grab the ones you want. M at centre. M at centre. Press M. Centre. M. Centre. M. I mean, there's other ways to go about this, but it's an alternative method for you. So we got our ears, which is now all just one mesh. Sculpt mode, X, and we got both sides we can work on there. Bring these in there. And I thought these tutorials would be quicker than they was, but even though I worked in the industry for 10 years, I'm not as, not as fast as some people, I'm afraid, but there you go. You can only try your best. The little cut there. Break it up. Control S to save. Let's get the arms in there next then, I think. So I think what we'll do for the arms, they seem to be hugging the body really, these arms. Even though they're quite cylindrical. So I'm wondering if let's just try a cube for now. Actually, let's add a cylinder, mesh cylinder. Let's scale that. Try and mimic this arm. Just zoom into this reference a bit. We've got our cylinder. Go into edit mode. Get some more geometry in there. We've got a bit more geometry to play with. Edit mode. Face mode. Inset. Inset a few faces there. Inset a few faces there. It seems to come out of the arm there. Scale it. Push it in there. Scale. I think what we need to do is go into edit mode, vertex, select lasso. What about if we rotate these? Rotate the vertexes. Now select the lasso. Rotate. We can keep hugging the body, can't we there? We do that. Rotating. Now select lasso. So, something along the lines of that. And then these edges here, I've got to extrude inwards. We'll add another supporting loop there. Bring that down a touch. There's a bend in this arm. So bring it in. Rotate it a little bit there, and it's pretty much, just look at the reference. There's something along the lines of that. Now it slots in. Right click and shade smooth. Wondering if I go into sculpt mode. Now that's gonna just click G and see how it. Then we can go into sculpt mode. Just tweak it like that. Because there's a bend at the elbow by the looks of it. Let's just shape that to get the elbow bend in there. A little bit more volume on it, the top, and then the bend. I've got a Lego figure in front of me as well as the reference on the other monitor. So I'm just looking at that. It's like going in there, tap smooth at a low intensity. Just tweaking this arm shape. You definitely need to keep it round as well, and tap smooth. Tapping smooth. And a bit of tweaking on that. We definitely need to do some more work on that. That's the basis of the arm, isn't it? Seems to hug the body more on this top bit. Seems more flat for me. I maintain the roundness on it. Definitely need to get that more round. But that'll do for now. Maybe needs to be a bit longer. Something along the lines of that. You need to do a bit of polish around there. You can mirror the arm to the other side. We need to add mesh another cylinder. I'm just thinking of the hand now. So we could rotate that 90. Just bring it over here for now. Best way to go about the hand. Okay, if we go into edit mode, vertex, see through, back to the select box. Okay, if we move these in like that, it's kind of a C shape, isn't it, really? The hand. Move that in. Select these, move them in. Just keep moving it in like that. You could grab them two, scale, them two, scale, scale, scale that up. Maybe needs to be a bit thicker, isn't it? kind of thing. I mean, you could probably create a curve, to be honest, and do it that way like I've done in previous tutorials, but that's not too bad. Now to see-through mode. Not sure if we can add a loop cut in that face there. We can add a few supporting edges, can't we? We can add a couple across there. Then what about if we add, so we haven't got much geo there, but let's try and generate the bevel modifier. Right click and shade smooth. Bring that down and that up. It's along the lines of that, isn't it, the hand? Oops, dropped the Lego figure. Along the lines of that, but I think that this seems to come. We go into edit mode, edge. I think these ones here. Let's knock the bevel off. We could have turned it off, but I deleted it. Let's knock that off. Let's bring these down. Could we scale it? I think we're going to have to bring these ones down. Where aren't we? So it's not as sharp. Bring these down. It's not as sharp, is it then? Generate bevel. Something along the lines of that. What about if we go to generate subdivision surface? Not enough geo is there for that. So that'll do for now on the hand. You're going to have to sort out, have to do a bit of tweaking on that hand, but let's just get it into position. That'll be too big. Maybe something like that. You shouldn't be touching the body, so we're going to have to tweak that. Then we need add mesh cylinder. Right click, shade smooth. Need to add that as a connecting part, won't we? So rotate, scale, local, scale, scale, bring it into there, and that. We'll have to tweak that arm. That's the basis of it. Would we maybe shift D on that? and use this as the tail. This is a tail in there. Back to global. Move that. And obviously we're going to have to do some tweaking on this arm. It mimics a tail. So quite a bit of tweaking to do on this tail here to make it mimic a tail and the reference. So I'll do that and come back to you on the tail. We also need to get the hair in there. So there really is a lot to do still. So mesh cube. Let's move that up to there. Scale it a bit into position. Move it down. Add subdivision surface. Apply it. And add another subdivision surface. Into sculpt mode. Enable X. Let's just start shaping this hair a bit. And what I'm going to do in a minute is I'm going to duck out, do some polish, get stuff renamed, and come back and tell you what I've done, because it's definitely going on a bit, this. Not as easy as I thought doing these tutorials. A lot to it. Let's just look at this reference here. Seems to be, this hair seems to come down like that. Let's have that as 2. Seems to come down and go up. And come back down. With the ear, onto the ear there. And from the side, it's pretty much down a Jake Sully, like goes around there. Back in, you can see a bit of the head and the ears. Zooming on the reference. Up into his ear. And sort of over his ear. What I'm going to do, I need to increase that to 3 now. Some more geometry. I'm going to duck out, do some polish, probably mirror it, do a bit of polish on this arm. Tweak the structure a bit, get the tail done. I shall come back. I'll tell you what I've added on this character. Got quite a bit done. We certainly need to do a bit of clean up on it. So that's Lego Jake Sully so far. So I'm going to duck out, do a bit of polish. I'll be back to tell you what I've done. Right, so I'm back on. I've done some polish. Well, not so much polish yet, but adding some more stuff. So we duplicated the arm, didn't we, to the tail. I've just gone in with the sculpt brush, hit G, move this about a bit, use smooth. You can use inflate as well to get a bit more volume. Inflate brush. But mainly grab inflate and smooth on that. done a bit more tweaking on the arm. You can hit Alt Q to go between meshes. Hit G. Just done a bit more roundness and different views. Still need a bit more tweaking on it. I've changed the structure of the arm a bit, scaled it a bit so it's a bit longer. As I say, I've mirrored the hand and the arm across to the other side. You know how to do that, just a basic mirror modifier. Change the proportions a bit, done a bit of scaling on the torso, outwards and up. The Boolean thing was a bit messy, wasn't it, at the back? So what I've done, I just went into edit mode. And if you click this there, in the modifier stack, you can actually see the Boolean in edit mode. There. Just display the modifier in edit mode. I just added a couple more loops just around on the main leg. And then what the magic part is, you just move this Boolean modifier to the top of the modifier stack. You can just grab these little dots here. If you move it down, you get the crap shading. If you move it up and have it as the first modifier in the stack, you'll get a nice clean cut. Sorry. I don't think we really need a subdivision. Alright, it could be, you might try it in a bit around there, but it's okay. And I renamed everything here. It's cleaner. Put Jake into a collection, just right click and add new collection. Camera and light. What I've done with that is I just moved to the light, just down the bottom. So I move the light to there. You click there, you can get settings. I set that to 5000. I move the camera back. If you hit F12, you'll just get a very basic render for now. Just to see the proportions. That's as far as I got. I've done a little bit of tweaking on the head. Combined the head and the neck with Control J. I combined the hand and this cylinder here, so that's just one object. Control A all transforms to deltas. What you can do is, if you go to Object, Set Origin to Geometry, that means you'll be able to move it kind of in the middle, pivot. Then you just go Control A, all transforms to deltas, and it'll set it all to 0. So nice clean 0 values. I've explained that in other tutorials, but obviously we'll want the pivot point for this leg eventually to be around there. At the moment it's at the bottom. We'll want it to pivot from this here. That's another thing for polishing a bit when we do some more clean up. But the next thing to think about, just turn that camera and light off, is the hair, really. You're not going to have enough geometry with this subdivision modifier. Because if you go into sculpt mode, for example, go to draw sharp, you just haven't got enough geo to be sculpting it. So what we need to do is think about doing something different for that, the hair sculpt. I've got the basic shape in place. Sorry, wrong one. Sculpt mode, G, F to resize. I've got the basic hair in place. We need to change the structure a bit. And I think the best method of doing that is sculpting the hair, to be honest. That's what we'll do now, we'll sculpt the hair. What we want to do for that is we'll apply that subdivision. We're in sculpt mode. Let's just try that as a mesh size. Go into draw sharp, see how that performs. Not too bad. All you do there is you go to remesh, click remesh at the default 0.1 to apply the subdivision, and then remesh at 0.1. Let's start looking at the shape of this hair. So, sort of use your draw sharp brush and just dig in around here. It sort of goes back and down here. So we're just using draw sharp. Then we can go there with draw sharp. Best to start with a lower resolution first. A draw sharp, and it goes kind of into one, really there. Sort of joins there. We're just using draw sharp to cut in or dig into it. Create this simple hair shape. Just look at the reference. F to resize, make it a bit stronger. Dig in a bit more there. We'll need some more geo in a minute. So we're just digging in, sort of intertwines into each other there. That's the basic shape of it, that kind of thing. So let's just dig in a little bit. Look at the brushes here, crease sharp. Let's try crease sharp. Just dig in a bit more. I think we need, let's try remeshing at 0.03. Remesh. Smooth out a bit there. Smooth out these bumps just by holding shift. Let's have a look at the strength of the smooth. I like to have it at about 0.45. F to resize. Let's just smooth this out a little bit. Just go over it all with your hold shift to smooth it out a bit. Else it'll be too messy if you don't. So you've got the basic holes kind of dug in. Let's again get draw sharp, and then just go over it again with draw sharp. And digging into it, but try and keep it nice and a bit neater. Draw sharp, dig into it. Draw sharp, digging in. Around there. F to resize. Draw sharp again. Digging into it. Draw sharp along them lines you already made. Zoom out a bit as well. Bring it round there, down, round there and down. It's not perfect at all, but something along the lines of that. Digging as well on this bit. And let's grab our G to get our grab brush. Looking at the reference. bring this, seems to loop over the ear there. And then round there. In the bottom seems to look sort of pretty cylindrical, really, the bottom bit. We could smooth out, grab our flatten, knock off X, / the solo mode, then just flatten that out there, 'cause it looks like it's pretty flat, the bottom bit. F to resize, flatten, tap smooth. We'll do a bit of tweaking on that in a bit. G to grab. Enable X again. And then knock X off. Let's try. We try crease sharp. See what that gives us. Yeah, crease sharp's not bad. And just add a few more. Maybe add a bit of a S curve there. It's not as symmetrical, just breaking the symmetry a bit. But yeah, crease sharp's not bad, is it? F to resize. Get in there with a crease sharp. Smooth it a bit. Maybe draw sharp was. Yeah. I need a little bit more geo. It's not perfectly matching the reference I've got. It gives you an idea, and it seems to be also be goes like that as well on it. He's trying to mimic the dreadlocks or plaits kind of thing. Just go in like that as well. Just around there. Middle not so much, I think he just looks like the outer bits. Got that kind of thing. And then down here there's a few. Just look at this reference here. Seems to be one there as well. And there. That kind of thing. Grab your smooth. Knock it down to about 0.3. And just smooth over it a bit. Try not to destroy what you've already sculpted, you just tap in smooth. And what we could do then, remesh 0.02. Remesh. Let's give us a bit more geometry to play with. We may try 0.1 and see what this gives. Try crease sharp. I think draw sharp's better. Is it? I think there's a stroke. Stabilise stroke. You go to stabilise stroke, look, you get like a bit like lazy mouse in ZBrush if you've used that. You can see it more. Let's just hit stabilize stroke. That enables us to see the stroke with a line. It's far from the best sculpt you'll see, but when you're rushing a bit trying to show stuff, not as easy to make it perfect, but you get the idea now of how you go about it. And it's quite useful, that stabilised stroke. Something like that. And then here, bring it round as well. Just to mimic the dreadlock kind of thing they've got. As I say, far from perfect, but let's knock that off then. That's her stabilised stroke. Delete on the numpad to zoom in to see what we got. Not too bad. Let's go into draw. Let's just see if we can create a little bit more roundness on them. A little bit more rounded. It's just a draw brush. Inflate maybe. Just inflate that a bit. Just zoom in on this reference. You've definitely got something like that really. Well, a few little shapes in there. Just a few sort of random shapes. Hasn't got to be perfect. But we do try. Yeah, maybe something like that. And just tap. Increase your brush size with F and then just tap smooth. Let's just look at the back. It does seem to be, these do seem to be a bit more connected here. So to connect them, could go to clay strips. And then just sculpt over like that. They look a bit more connected. That's just with default clay strips. Back to draw sharp. And just dig in. We probably need a bit more geo, but that kind of vibe really. I think maybe inflate that. It breaks up the silhouette a little bit. Just inflate in there. You get like 3 lumps kind of thing. Go around to there, inflate that a bit. Inflate. Control S to save. I just think we need a bit more around there, don't we? So let's just create a basic little couple of curves in there. Here, C curve, S curve, and just a C curve, inflate. Like that, draw sharp again. Just go in. Write a few little bits there, smooth to peter it out. And we'll do a bit more polish on that hair. Maybe bring that bit more of a curve there. Control S to side. Let's just look at if we go to 0.01. And then remesh. That's give us quite a bit more geometry, hasn't it? That. Then we could go in. Again, use our stabilize stroke. And because we've got more geometry, cut it in a bit more. But that'll be more. We'll save that for the polish. Let me do a bit of clean up on that. But yeah, just cutting it in a little bit more. F to resize, then just tapping smooth. Something along the lines of that. Not perfect, but it's something. G, F. Tweak the silhouette out a bit. So I think that's the structure for most of the character there in place, isn't it? We've got most of it in place. What we need, you can hit Control to dig inwards on the draw brush. So if you hit Control, you'll go in normally, out, Control to go in. That's just the draw brush. Just creating a bit of a outwards. Yeah. We can't keep going on that here. We have to leave that like that for now. Maybe just tweak that in there. Next thing we need to do, then start looking at texturing, don't we? So that's the basic structure of Jake Sully. The next up, we're going to have to do a bit of unwrapping and then texturing. So yeah, it's far from perfect, the hair. But like I say, we can't keep going on it. You need to look into getting some of this texturing in place now, but as I say, we need to unwrap first of all. It's a bit messy, this. I don't like how linear it is there, so we're going to have to do a bit of polish on this hair. As I say, let's not can't keep going with that. So let's just analyse this reference then now. Please, what's that? 350,000. That's not bad. Still got 350,000. I mean, you can get millions in blender now. So let's look at this unwrapping. Let's just hide this hair, get it out of the way, it's annoying me. I have to tweak these ears a bit more. Let's just tweak these ears. They look a bit bigger, if you ask me. Let's enable X. Just tweak these ears. They're a bit bigger. It's a cracking film, by the way, Avatar Fire and Ice. Oh, Fire and Ice. Fire and Ash. Fire and Ice is a game on the Amiga. 30 odd years ago. Yeah, Fire and Ash. Really good film. I thought so anyway. So I look a little bit better. So let's we've got a subdivision on that. That's pretty decent. So let's get this unwrapped so we can paint this face. So let's go to UV editing. Let's look at there's not really much to texture on the neck, so we ain't got to worry about that. We're going to see through. We've got some extra G over there. But let's go to mark seam there. Let's isolate this head by going to / wireframe. Edit mode. Let's knock off the subdivision in the window there. Clear seam. Let's go. Select loops, edge loops. Right click, mark seam. Select loops, edge loops, right click, mark seam. Select loops, edge loops, and also select that side edge loops, mark seam. Going to see through, see what we got. Select loops, edge loops, mark seam on that. So we're just marking seams here. Select loops, edge loops, right click, mark seam. If you viewed my beginning Blender lecture, I'll give you an idea how you go about unwrapping. Select loops, edge loops, right click, mark seam. Let's select along these ears. I don't think there's going to be much texturing around the ears, but let's just mark them anyway. Let's mark, say, these along here. Basically, this is just so we can texture it. We've got something to paint on so it's unwrapped properly. So you're looking for like to cut it really so you can paint on it. Might not be too bad. Go into face mode, A to select all, right click. Have I changed it now? U. It's U to unwrap. Then go to unwrap minimum stretch. If you look there in the UV window, let's give us something to paint on there. We might bump up the subdivision, but that'll be alright to paint on hopefully. What we can do, we can test if that's going to be alright. So we'll go to material, Actually, we'll go into the shading. Into shading. We've got our head selected, we'll click New. We want to go to Jake, we'll name that Jake Head. Shift A, Texture, Image Texture. Sorry, not open. Click New and set that to, just click Head, make it 4096 by 4096, it's 4K, and then make the base colour more of a avatar blue. New image. Let's give us our basic base colour. The head. If we go back to layout, colour, we'll see that now. What we can do, we can go to texture paint. We're not going to paint it yet, we're going to get everything unwrapped first. Black. So we can paint on it there. Because it's 4K, looks like it's a decent resolution, so we'll be able to paint on that alright. That should be okay for painting that. So that's the head unwrapped. Look in UV editing, you got it unwrapped nicely. Let's go back, let's Control S to save, /. Let's hide the head. It looks like the arm doesn't need any. You don't need anything painted on for the arm. So what we can do, we can go to grab that arm to New, name that Jake arm, base colour, pipette, grab that blue, go into colour mode, that's pretty much the same colour as the head, should be. We'll mess about with the roughness and that another time. Let's just call that Jake. Blue base. Because we can also assign that to the hands by the looks of it. They look the same colour. The hair was pretty much a, don't need to unwrap the hair. We can go to hair, set that to, don't have it jet black, maybe that can be the hair. Let's just hide that for now. And let's just check this reference again. We need to unwrap the torso next. Let's isolate that wireframe. Let's go into edit mode. Let's go into edge mode. Got our bevel modifier. Let's hide that in the camera. Let's start marking some seams on this. So in edge mode, let's go. Tell you what we could do. Select A to select all. U, minimum stretch. Hang on, U, cube projection. Minimum stretch. We need some seams really. We could leave it at the cube and see how we get on, but let's just add some seams. Let's go to select loops, edge loops. It hasn't selected them all, so just select in the viewport. Not them ones, that. Hold shift. Select them. Right click. Mark seam. Select loops, edge loops. Select loops, edge loops. Select loops, edge loops. Right click, mark seam. You want to cut along there as well. Cut along there. And then also remember to hold shift. I say cube projection might have been alright, but I like to have the seams. Right click, mark seam. Now A to select all, U, minimum stretch. If you go to face, Control L, Control L, you can just give it a little bit of separation. But yeah, cube projection probably would have been alright, just there. But I like to use that minimum stretch a lot personally. So again, shading, new. Let's just go into materials. Let's copy that base colour. You want to click new, shift A, texture, image texture, new, torso, 496, colour, yep, we've already got it, with old blender. Alright, torso, new image, plug that into the base, into layout. Let's just see if we can paint alright on that. Or do we need we had a subdivision on there. Go into texture paint. Yeah, it should be okay. Should be okay for painting on that. So that's the torso done. So I'm going to carry on unwrapping the legs. Actually, yeah, we do need it on the legs. The tail, that can just be assigned. Let's have a look at this. Tail can just be Jake base blue. We'll do a bit of polish on that tail. I'm looking at the reference. This can also be base blue. This one here and this one, I think we can Control J on them, join them, go to new, tail base. This sort of a greeny colour by the looks of that. And if that's the right green, we'll do a bit of, we'll check that. It's like a greeny colour there. So that's the torso and head unwrapped. I'm just going to unwrap the legs as well. Same sort of techniques, and I'll bring you back when the legs are unwrapped. Right, so I've unwrapped the leg as well. And obviously when you're unwrapping, you want to look for areas that you're not going to see as much on the render. Especially important with games, that is, like, so the inner leg on a proper character, you'd look to, if it was a proper character, you'd look to unwrap, put a seam there, for example, or at the bottom. But as I say, this is only just like a Lego character, but same kind of principle. But if you look, I just added the seams in red there. A to select all. You unwrap a minimum stretch, and that now should be we can assign Jake base blue to that. Actually no, sorry, we're going to be painting on that, aren't we? So we want to go in and add another image texture to that. New legs 4K, new image, plug it into the colour, back to layout, / we can turn our mirror back on. And that's the legs unwrapped. We'll just go to texture paint, just so we can test it's alright to paint on. And yep, that should be okay as well to paint on. So you just go into texture paint there. You can choose the colour you want. You can also use the stabilised stroke as well if you want. That kind of thing. And you could maybe knock off stabilised stroke and just zoom in and paint inside. So that's what we're going to be doing on the texture painting, is that sort of thing. I think it's blue, but I'm just showing you the concepts of it. So I think that let's undo that for now. It's pretty much ready to rock with our texture painting. So we've got, that's our booleans, we don't need them in the render either. You can, if you turn that off, yeah, that turns it off in your viewport, and that'll turn it off in the render. So be sure to do that on your booleans. That's not too bad, that's a nice base. Let's just check the values. Keep everything nice and clean. You want nice 0 values here. Keep it in a nice folder. Let's put our camera light back on and hit F12. And we can see that's our basic Lego man, ready to be painted on. We'll still do a bit of tweaking on this, like maybe bring that out a bit, for example, so you can see the elbow a little bit more, kind of like free up the silhouette, maybe not that much, but maybe just a bit more, so there's a little bit of separation here. Looks like we need to do a bit of smoothing there. We might tweak the colour of this green to make it more light. We'll bring this, maybe scale that just a touch so you can see more of a crease. Maybe scale that a bit more. Maybe bring that shoulder down so you can just see a plane there. Might make the ears a little bit bigger. Possibly do a bit of re-sculpting around there on the hair. So yeah, there's still quite a bit to polish up and get right. We might tweak the blue as well, make it more light, same as the green. But the next thing to do is, as I say, we'll start painting in these eyebrows and eyes and the mouth and these bits around here next. Start the painting process. That should be quite fun. So we'll do that next. Right then, so let's start this texture painting process then. And what I've done here, I've just adjusted this blue. Make it a bit darker. Because it was quite light before, that blue. And it needs to be a bit darker than that. That's more closer to the avatar, just making it a bit darker. So what we can do then, we'll start off on the body. Let's just check this. Yeah, we got our torso there. Let's adjust this mic. So there's our torso. We can get zoom right in on that. I've got the reference on my other monitor. It's not going to be perfect. I'm just showing the process, and we'll do a bit of that polish I mentioned previously in a bit. But let's just try and start getting some of these textures in there. So we want to go to texture paint. And actually, I've got my screencast keys working as well now. There's another version available. I've updated it. So screencast keys is back. Let's just have Epic Pen just in case we need that to highlight anything. Let's just get me reference. So yeah. So we want to go into. So our blender's just hanging a bit there, so bear with me a second. Just swig of tea. Got the death ball going on here. I think I need to hide a few items if it doesn't crash. Let's just hang about a minute. Yeah, we restarted. I've hid the head and the hair. I think that's taking up quite a few resources, and we've got some 4K textures in there. I'll just go to File, Automatically Pack Resources, and then Clean Up, Purge Unused Data, just in case there's anything. So let's crack on with that. So what we need to do, we need to go into, we need to grab our torso, go into Texture Paint, and let's just start painting this texturing. So we can go to Stroke, Stabilize Stroke. Let's just test that. We obviously need to colour. Let's just make it darker. Yeah, let's get a darker blue. Something like that. Maybe a little bit lighter maybe. We'll just go for that. That's not perfect, but it's pretty close. So F. Let's just adjust the brush size. Got our stabilised stroke. We'll have it as symmetry for now. It looks quite symmetrical. It sort of starts somewhere around there and it goes this sort of thing. We'll get the outline first. F to make that a bit smaller. Then just painting in these markings like this. This one looks a bit bigger. What goes there. And a bit of a C curve there. Then there's a space in between that one. Just leave a little space. Then we got another one what are going down there. Off round there. Nice clean strokes. Into the stomach area. There, curving around there a bit. As I say, it's not going to be absolutely perfect because we haven't got all day to polish every single little thing. But just painting these markings as best we can to follow or mimic what it's like. So that goes maybe down there a bit. We've got the basis of it in there. What we can do then, we can knock off stabilise stroke, go in and start filling it. I mean, there's all different ways you can go about it, but this way's not too bad. For filling these marks we made, F to resize. Luckily you can see the screen cascades now, so we're all good on that. Not going to do this, that's going to be on polish, the edges. Do this not perfect on the edges, that's going to be a polish part that I'll do off screen. Let's just get some colour in there. So you will get a little bit of hanging, the more 4K textures you've got in there. So just be wary of that on your PC, you will get a touch of hanging in Blender. So yeah, just filling these in. Not the most exciting thing to watch, but shows you the process of how you go about it. And yes, it is dead symmetrical. Really what you want to do, you want to try and break the symmetry in general. So it's not absolutely bang on, so what you could do, you could knock X off and then maybe just go in and just extend that beyond it a little bit. More of a polish thing. That's going to be, just so it's not exactly the same as the other side. Maybe turn your stabilise stroke back on. And just go in and break the symmetry a bit. It's a bit messy there, so you could maybe extend that out a bit. Have something like that, so it's not dead the same as the other side. So that's the basic pattern in there. Control S to save. Then we need to go darker now. It looks like we've got a darker blue. We've got stabilised stroke on again. F, just to increase the size to there. Let's just test that, see what that's like. That's a bit too thick. Maybe try that. And then that's how it goes then, kind of that thing. So let's turn X on. F, bump it up a touch. It seems to go from there, sort of like that. And there's sort of a little kind of a V shape kind of thing. Something like that. Not perfect, but something along the lines of that. And then somewhere around here, you got another one that comes. Something like that. And like that. Something along the lines of that. It seems a little bit big, really, to me, that. Compared to the reference. I think we'll undo that. We'll maybe put it here instead. That's maybe a bit too small, but that'll do for now. Actually, we'll undo that because it kind of curves a bit at the start. Maybe not that much. A little bit of a curve there. And then up. And up like that. Something like that. And also at the bottom, you've got two bits that come. Something like that. Maybe not quite as thick. Something like that. And then there's also, if we go to, so we got different brushes here. We're on paint hard. We'll stick with, you can paint soft as well, so it's not as intense. So something along the lines of that. Not perfect, but gives you an idea. Portions are a touch off. But then you've also got like a white or an off-white. And there's a lot of dots in there as well. So we can have our symmetry on. Let's get the, go to a white and off, pretty much white. Paint. Yeah, paint hard, but not strength, not quite 100. You can vary it up a little bit. So have some. Just adjust your brush size a bit, and adjust your strength, and just start putting a bit of some of these little dots in there, like that. Adjust the strength. You vary it a bit. And knock the symmetry off as well. So you can go on and off with symmetry. So these kind of go like that. In there, and maybe knock the symmetry off. And add a few as well. Vary the strength. You just start adding these dots in there like that. It's a simple little dot. So that's how you go about the texture painting of the torso. And that's pretty much how you'll go about the texture painting for the wrist. I'm just going to do a little bit of polish now on it, because according to the reference you need to also paint the back. I'm going to paint the back as well, do a little bit of polish on this, and I'll dive back in and tell you what I've done. Right, so I'm back on. I've done a bit more. I've used the same techniques that we've done for the front to paint the back. I'll do a bit more polish on that around here. Front was done. I've also gone in unwrapped with the same techniques we used. You can do a cube unwrap or unwrap with minimum stretch. I've painted on this part of the pant, same technique, little bit of jagginess there, which we'll try and clean up. When you look from that distance, that's alright. You need to do a bit more paint on the legs that I'll do off screen, but it's just the same technique as that, just painting the black, cyan and brown. It's not perfect, but the most important thing I think now is we need to try and paint this head. And it looks like that head is a different colour, so we need to start off. Let's go into, I like to work in layout mode, / because I isolated before. Let's click on the head. Let's just check the texture. We've got a head texture there. We'll go back into layout. I find that if you go into texture paint and you select your pipette and select that colour there, it never seems to quite match. You have to go into the UV editor. It's your best bit. So there are we, UV editing. If you grab it from there, you'll get an exact match. So let's isolate this head with / go into layout mode. Must have adjusted the viewport. Texture paint. Fill. You need to fill that head first with this fill tool here. And you'll get some tools on the side there. You can blur stuff, smudge. I've recently been doing some Roblox characters. I've used that blur and smudge quite a bit. But that's the main one you'll use, the brush there. So we filled that. So let's look at this face then. This is the most important part really now. We've got X on. Let's just analyse this reference. We'll choose blackish colour. Just go into object mode, check the values. Let's just check, have we got a map on this head? Then we've got a base colour and an image here. So texture paint. We've got stabilised stroke on. So let's zoom into this reference here. It looks like the brows are slightly different. So you can turn off wireframe, but I generally like to keep it on for some reason. I think it's because I've worked in computers for that long and being at universities, I like to see the polygons. Strange, I know. Let's adjust the brush size. Let's just try and paint in this brow. As I always say, we'll just block it in. We'll do a bit of polish and clean up on it. I'm painting this brow. It seems to start in a bit more, really. I'll have to check it with the other side. Something like that. I think to keep it simple to start with, actually, we'll mirror it. And we can make sure the proportions are more correct. We'll do it like that to start. And then maybe break the symmetry afterwards. Just to get the proportions right. So underneath the brow, you get, looks like there's a black eye shape. Maybe starts a bit down there like that. And he seems to go down there for the nose. Nose wing pushes out a bit. And then simply just straight. It joins in the middle. More straighter really. Maybe a bit too thick, but we'll go with it for now. In the mouth, seems to be smiling. Hopefully he's killed a few sky people. Maybe not smiling quite as much, but something like that. In there, then maybe. Best to do it in one stroke really. So, something like that. Maybe a little bit bigger, the mouth. But you can just go in there. Best not to have, when you're painting inwards, you can knock off the stabilised stroke, but you get the idea. So something like that. And then, looks like you can't have layers in Blender, that's a bit of a letdown. There's probably ways around it. But in general, you can't have layers like in Substance and Photoshop and stuff. So we need to now pick this dark colour there. We'll paint the eyes in last, because we've got the dark colour. So let's look at painting in some of these markings. Something like I'm just rushing a bit now. I'll have to clean it up on the polish, but I'm just giving you an idea. I'm getting some of these markings in there, sort of knock off, symmetrical. It seems to go sort of down there, and onto the brow. So as I say, you can't layer. You'd have to paint that brow bit back in there. Looks like there's a bit of a, maybe an S curve there. And that comes down, seems to come down there and join there. But really, we should have painted them markings in first. We're going to have to go over the top of the brows there. So you should always try and plan things better. As I say, we haven't got the layers in Blender. Let's just paint in and put the X back on there. Seems to go around there. Something like that. I keep painting these markings in. Looks like you've got seems to start around there. And then there and down there. And you've got a bit of a like point sort of there and there. Needs to be just on the one side, little bit of a curve there, probably not as big really, and knock your brush size down. Something like that. And you got a bit of a chin crease at the bottom. And then there's another mark there. Go over that a bit. It's just going in and just painting it like that. But as I say, we should have put the blue at the to start with. I never really thought it out fully there. You want to be grabbing head, grab your pipette, grab your black to make sure you've got the same colour. So let's go back in now. I think what we'll do, remember to go to texture paint, let's paint the brows back in. It's a little bit jagged. I'm just blocking it in for now, and we'll go in and polish it a bit in a while. It's just blocking these brows here. Think about C and S curves. Just getting the bases of it in there for now. Polish it in a bit. Need to paint over this bit here again. Put X on now. Paint over that, clean up that bit there. Bring that round. And we'll grab the yellow colour. Nearly quite yellow. Sort of a orangey yellow. Let's try and get the most important thing of all in there. The eyes. So it's sort of go round like that. And maybe not quite as much, but maybe up and around, and we'll have to we'll paint over with the black again, then fill them. They're not 100% correct, they're probably a bit more yellow than that. We can tweak that in a bit. Let's just get the basis of it in there. It doesn't drag on. So something like that. Stabilise stroke again. Maybe just a little bit more. Around there, maybe not that much, maybe just there. And then back into it. And we've also got an off-white teeth here. Again, stabilise stroke. Paint that in. It'll be jagged. We'll have to just clean that up in a bit. I've got sort of a bit cat-like, isn't they? So teeth there like that. bit more there, something along the lines of that. That's more of a line there, but that's going to be more a polish thing. Can be the teeth. You need to fill in these bits here. You need to, again, go into your UV editor, pipette, grab your black, back into your layout. Let's go to texture paint, resize the brush, knock off stabilize stroke. Need to get that pupil in there, so sort of we got a strength of 100. Remember, you can adjust your strength, but we want it much. Just trying to get the correct size. Maybe something like that. Maybe a bit bigger. Something like that. Doesn't feel too bad. We can get a little specular highlight in there as well. It's something along the lines of that. It obviously needs a bit of polish. And we also need to go in and grab your off-white again. Adjust your size. And you'll need to add your little, just the strength. Remember, you need to add your little dots in there again, around here. You can also go to spacing, in stroke, spacing. Maybe try that at 100. Remember, you can do it like that as well if you want. Sort of space it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to do some polish on the face here. And I'll come back and tell you what I've done on the face. This is quite a little bit of polish to do here. So polish up your face and I'll be back in a minute. So that's the face, which is probably 90% there. I've just gone in and tightened up around this nose and the eyebrows. There's still some parts that I'm not too happy with around there, bumping in a bit. A few little bit jagged around there. I think this mouth needs to be a little bit bigger, maybe there. This blueness probably needs to come down here, but we can't keep going on. And I've just realised as well that we still need to get these legs painted in there. So there's still quite a bit to do on this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get these legs painted in. It's the same kind of techniques we use for the face and the body. I'll get these legs painted in and then we'll think about the next steps in this character. So I've followed the same principles and I've now painted in the legs and this lower part. It is a little bit symmetrical there. So on the polish, I'm going to clean that up a bit to break up the symmetry. I painted it symmetrical because we've got that mirror modifier. If we apply the mirror modifier, we can break it up either side. That's more of a polish thing, which you'll need to do to break the symmetry. But that's pretty much most of the texture painted in, I believe. I'm just looking at the reference. I can't see any of the white dots on the bottom. And there's a few things that are not perfect. I mean, this on here should be a bit bigger. Maybe these black lines should be a bit thicker. As I say, I need to break the symmetry up there. You know, make this sort of... You can see the kind of thing I'm trying to say. Just polish notes really to make it a bit more nicer looking. But that overall is the bulk of the paint. As I say, this hair's a bit messy. Really, it's not the best sculpt. You could do with probably cleaning that up a bit. That's the bulk of it in place. As I say, maybe round this, polish up some of this texture a bit. I think that's the bulk of it in place. I'm trying to think what we can do next really. We do need to do a bit of tweaking on the structure. So if we go into sculpt mode and enable X, let's just tweak a little bit, the grab brush, and just tweak the ears a little bit. Make them a bit more sort of aesthetically pleasing. A bit more roundness to it. The head is pretty much in place. Could do with a little bit of tweaking, I think, on the head. Maybe bring the jawline in a bit more, and then bring this bit in a bit more. Maybe the jaw comes up a bit more, and the chins, a bit like that, things like that. I mean, the neck, I think, should probably be a bit bigger really. That's all polished stuff. We did mention, didn't we, about bringing this plane down. So if we go into edit mode, see through, we can grab these vertexes there and just bring them. Make sure you grab all of them and just bring that down a bit, so you see the plane a bit more, so it's not so flat. So things like that. We could do with cutting in a few loops here, so it's not as rough, so that's another thing really to do. I think maybe that's a little bit too big really, the hands, aren't they? Maybe bring them, scale them down a bit. I don't think there was any texture on the tail, we can leave that for now. Proportions wise, yeah, it's got long legs, but maybe not quite as long, so maybe bring them up a little bit there. They're not quite as long. So yeah, just be sure you've got these in the right position, because I applied it a bit too early really. You got to remember you had a Boolean there before you adjust these leg proportions, so just be sure to adjust them before applying stuff, but I've applied it now. We will hide that for now. You want to separate these legs to get bit of a different pose and just static. So what we'll have to do, we'll go to edit mode, face, Control L, let's just move that to test. Make sure you've got everything. Control L, we've got everything there. Make sure that goes back, come out to see through. Press P and then selection. Now you've separated the legs out now. You've got two different legs. And we'll need that leg to pivot at the correct place. So let's just try and think about pivot point for this leg. Let's just isolate that leg for now. And go into edit mode, vertex. Let's try selecting over those. And go to Shift S. cursor to selected. I'm not 100% that'll pivot at the correct place. Let's try it. Let's go to set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Let's see how them legs pivot. That's not too bad, is it? It should pretty much be in the middle, but because we've got this geometry in the middle, it's probably best to select the outer ones, really, instead of the middle ones as well. I'm not sure if that will make any difference. Let's just try it out of interest. Let's go to shift this, cursor to selected. Nah, he was better off as we was. Pivot it from there. Should be bang in the middle, but we can go with that for now. Or shall we try? Shall we see if it'll pivot it by just selecting those two? Shift this, cursor to selected, into object mode, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Yeah, that's a better pivot, isn't it? That sounds like a better pivot to me. So we can pivot that leg a bit there. And let's just do the same for this one. / to isolate. I've got my screencast keys on here, so I'm not sure why they're... Oh yeah, just fire it back up. Let's go into edit mode again, see through. Oh, we've missed some stuff there, look. And the separation. We'll have to rejoin that. When we separated that leg, see, we seem to have missed a bit of geometry, look. So that's a bit of a wounder. What we're going to have to do there is grab that. We're going to have to... This is a thing you'll come across in 3D. You'll miss stuff as you go. Control L doesn't always P selection. And we're going to have to rejoin that. So select that and that. Control J to join. And because we've done that, we've lost our pivot point. So we need to origin to 3D cursor. Now we're back on. So let's isolate that. Yep, it can be a real bore like at times, the 3D, and this lecture is going to be hours and hours yet again. So it was that. And that. Shift this. Cursor to selected. You got the right ones. Shift this, cursor to selected. Object mode, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. That's going to pivot / to come out of isolation. Hide that. Let's go there and there to get a bit of a walk. Or we could even just go. We could leave one grounded actually, couldn't we? Really, we only needed to pivot the one. We could have him like that. Personal preference, I guess. We could have this. That needs to pivot as well in the centre. So in edit mode, see through, let's grab those, shift this, cursor to selected, object mode, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Now that'll pivot correctly. We had a bit of a discrepancy on the bevel, didn't we? Let's just apply that. Let's apply the Boolean, because we're not going to see that middle bit. So that could do with pivoting a bit there. That needs to pivot. Bring that down. Looking at what we got. Oh, there's another little, yeah, I forgot about that. There was another little bit, wasn't there? In there. That's got to go there. That's got to come up a bit. Then the arms. Are they mirrored? Yeah. So you're going to have to apply the mirror, edit mode, see through, go over all them, Control L, move it to make sure we've got everything this time. P, selection. We've separated the arms now. We need to adjust the pivot points again. Let's isolate these two arms. I can't believe how long this lecture's going to go on again. Edit mode. Shift this cursor to selected. Origin to 3D cursor. That should pivot there now. Do the same with that. Edit mode, select that face. Shift S, cursor to selected. Object mode, set origin, origin to 3D cursor, and that will pivot there. /. The hand needs to be Control P, object keep transform. But we need to undo that. We need to also separate the hand. So Control L, make sure you got everything. Before you do that, apply the mirror, edit mode, Control L, make sure you got everything. P to separate selection, and then with that, yep, separate. Origin to geometry, all transforms to deltas, all transforms to deltas. Control P, keep transform. Control P, keep transform. Now that is going to move the hand and the arm. We could have him holding a spear of some kind there. And then this arm could be up here. And he could be just waving a bit, maybe. It looks like that needs to come in a bit to stay on track of what a Lego arm looks like. Global. Move that arm. So we could have that arm just up there, couldn't we? And you could do a little wave. Let's go Control P to parent the hair to the head. We'll have his head spinning a bit. There, so he's looking the camera. We could have the arm waving a bit. And the hand rotating a bit. So, need to tilt this head. Well, we could set a camera up. He's kind of like that, so he's walking and waving. So Just grab everything. Move it down a touch. Pivot that back. We need to rename stuff and reset values and set a camera up with some basic lights. I can't go in depth about 3-point lights and all that stuff. But just looking at that needs to come there. We've covered a lot of stuff so far. Just do a little wave, couldn't I? Let's just put that tail into there. Just tilt it a bit. So I'm not going to be doing much more really now on this avatar Lego character because it's gone on quite a long time now. We can't keep going forever. We could have a little tilt, couldn't we? So I'll probably do a little animation on this. Then I'll set up some lights and a camera. But that won't really be part of the tutorial. The lights and the camera. Because I've covered that in the past quite a bit. So let's just grab all that. It looks like it needs to come. Or is it just that? Come down. This. And we should have double checked the Boolean because we probably need to extrude that a bit. But we can leave it like that for now. And really them arms should be parented to the torso as well. We're just moving it down for now. Just move it down manually. It's the same as the reference. We could have him something like that, couldn't we? Doing a little wave. So I think that's what we'll do now then. We'll Control S to save. I'm going to come back, do a bit of clean up on the values and stuff, tell you what I've done. And then we'll just do a little animation, I think. Just to end. And there he is, Lego Jake Sully. Do a bit of tweaking. And I'll be back in a bit. Just tell you what I've done. Right, so I've done a little bit more then. Remember, you might have to just adjust the middle bit there. I went into Control L. Select all that just so it matches the leg when you've bent him. I've put him into a pose, put his hand up there. If you go into camera and light, I'll just move the camera back there so we get a bit of perspective, I can't speak. Set the light to 5000. If you go into lit mode, it's only the 1-point light. I'll probably set that up a bit better before I do the final render. I'm not going in depth about cameras and lights on this. I've got other tutorials about that. I've adjusted that camera and light. Got a bit of perspective to him. So what we'll do now, we'll hide the camera and light. And we'll just try and create a simple wave. So let's go into the timeline. Let's just set that to 100. I think what we'll do. Oh yeah, and I also tidied up. I ended up parenting everything to the torso. So if you move the torso, everything moves, and that's better way of doing it. And I've set all the. You want to set your Control A. You want to go all transforms to deltas. If you go to all transforms when you reset these values, Control A, deltas will keep your pivot point. You want to keep your pivot point there. So let's see if we can do a simple little wave on this, as if he's waving like that. So I think what we'll do, we'll go to add armature, single bone. Let's go Shift S, cursor to selected, that bone we added, Shift S, selection to cursor. Let's just isolate. Let's grab the bone, the arm and the hand, / to isolate. There's our armature. Call that Jake arm rig. Control A all transforms to deltas on that bone. Then what we'll do then, I think, is we could have the hand spinning a bit, couldn't we? But let's just hide that. Let's go into edit mode on this bone, Shift D to duplicate. We'll call that F2 arm, F2 hand. We need to think about the pivot point, don't we, on this? If we go to edit mode, select that face, Shift S, cursor to selected. Then we can go to object set origin, origin to 3D cursor, local mode. So yeah, is that going to pivot? How's that going to pivot now? Not sure that's going to pivot as we want it, is it? But once we add the bone, because we're a bit off axis there, aren't we? Let's go into edit mode. Let's go Shift S, selection to cursor, into see-through mode. Let's just move that bone. There. Normal. It's where's our arm? So if we go grab the arm, Control P, empty groups, bone, arm, white paint, select that bone, painting the influence of the arm. Then select the rig again and the hand, white paint, and select, did we parent that to the, not sure we did, empty groups, bone, white paint, select that one this time, painting the influence on the hand, white paint that in. And if we go into pose mode, let's see how this arm's going to react. He's pivoting correctly there, isn't it? But we haven't parented this. Control P, keep the offset. Not sure where screencast keys have gone again. Have to keep restarting now. Apologies for that. So now we pivot that hand with that bone. It's also moving that hand, but how is that pivoting? It's a little bit off. Oh, that's okay, isn't it? It's pivoting alright there. So what we could do for a little animation, let's / bring everything back. Let's bring pose mode. So let's go A to select all, I to insert a key, copy paste it in the timeline there so it's the same at the end. And then maybe we just try 20. Let's bring it back so you can still see a bit of a gap between here and there. But remember to enable auto key. It can be like that, can't it? So he's waving a bit. Let's see how it looks. 20, so maybe 40, 60, 80, paste. Delete that one. See how it looks. So first the lasso. 2. Paste. Simple little animation. I think we haven't quite. Delete that. I think we missed one, didn't we? So forward, back. Forward, back. Forward, back. So choosing the arrow keys. So forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. Let's just move that to 100 so it loops 100%. I think move these to maybe 15. What we'll do, we'll go into the graph editor. We'll go to View, Only Selected, don't show the cursor. It looks like it was the x-axis on that bone. I think. Is it just the x-axis we moved? Yes. So you can clearly see that I've copied the wrong one there. We want the first the same as the last. So it's something like that. Right click, some modifiers, cycles, just so we get a perfect loop. Move these around a little bit just to create a bit of variation. Not going to say much visually, but if you press play, it's waving, look, isn't it? Just move these tangent handles about a bit. I don't think there should be values on the other ones. We only tweaked the X. So there he is waving, Jake Sully. Very basic. And what we could also do is that comes up to there. Let's grab this bone. Let's just work with, is it X or is it Y? Y looks like it's the Y value. Let's just work with Y. As that comes up, maybe that could go that, so you see through the hand maybe. And as it goes back, it twists a bit. Twists back. So I think it's better like that really. As it comes back, that spins back a bit there. Just adjust these. And as he comes forward, his hand sort of on the Y opens up a bit more, creates a bit of silhouette. It's like that. You can adjust it really as much as you want him to wave, want him to come. I think it's better to have the silhouette a bit freeze up there. You could bring it down to have him wave more. or just leave it a bit more subtle. Then one other thing you could do, which I've shown you in previous ones, you could have a little blink in there, maybe. You could have him blinking as a little shape key. Which I'm not sure how that is going to react with texture. If we go to shape key, basis, then add blink, for example, and go into sculpt mode, I'm not sure how much that's going to destroy the texture really if you create a blink, because we haven't got, if you look, we haven't really got enough geometry, have we? If we go into edit mode, could we add a loop? Maybe there, a couple of loops, then go back into sculpt mode, and with our grab brush F X, would we set the value here to 1? Would we maybe bring this down a bit to create a bit of a, at least mimic a little blink? So, as I say, we haven't really got the geometry cut in as you usually have with a shape key. We can kind of fake a little blink, can't we? Kind of thing. Maybe bring this right up there. Just bring this down. Yeah, we haven't really got a lot of geometry. Let's just see how it looks. Still got a bit of yellowness. So that's pulling the eyebrow down. Really now. You could have something like that, a little blink. So what you could do in the middle of the animation, say frame 49, have it at 0, set a key there, go forward a couple of frames, set another key to 1, then copy that, paste it there, and you got your little blink. Look. I'm wondering if it's better over. Is it better over more frames or less frames? I like that, over 5 frames, so 49 to 54, little blink. So there he is then. We can't keep on and on with this. That is going to be your Lego Jake Sully, and I'd suggest maybe setting up on better lights. So if I want to hide my camera and light, you got a little light in there. Obviously you want to change some of these settings to get less noise, like denoise it there. There's plenty of other tutorials of mine to go in more depth with that. So this has gone on well over 2 hours now. But that is going to wrap up our Lego Jake Sully. We've gone into a lot of techniques on this, a lot of modelling techniques, a few little animation techniques, showing you about the lights. Check out all my other tutorials for other stuff on cameras and lights and stuff. Obviously there's quite a bit of things you could polish on this. But you can't keep going on. Like I mentioned about the hair and tweaking some smoothness here and there. And if you look sort of around, there's a few little odd bits of texture that's not correct. But that gives you a lot of techniques into how you go about it. So there he is, waving goodbye to celebrate the release of Avatar 5 and Ash Avatar 3. So it's goodbye from me. And it's goodbye from Lego Jake Sully. Now cheers guys. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks. And one thing I just will add before I finish, which I think would be quite nice to be honest, is if you move that hand maybe to there, and then move the... Now take a bit of tweaking to get it aesthetically right. Remember to knock off your auto key. I'm not going to save this file, but I was thinking if you added a mesh and a cylinder, I noticed on the reference he's got like a spear of some kind, so you could have him sort of with that spear kind of thing there. If you control P that to there, it's got like a, might look nice to have him with a spear kind of thing. And you could add a bit of an emission maybe. There you could have something like that. Might look good at the end. That's how I might do it when I do the final render and do a bit of tweaking. I might just add a little spear of some kind and just bevel it a bit there, just to create a bit more interest. So that's just another little thing you could add. So that's definitely the end now. So thanks for tuning in guys, and I'll see you on the next tutorial. Thanks.